How's it going? Good evening. I wanted to get on and talk a little bit about Dimebag. Today marks the 20th anniversary of his untimely murder back in 2004. I vaguely remember that day. It was a long time ago, but I was just in utter shock and disbelief that something like that could happen to someone like Dime, who by all accounts seemed to be a very positive person. Always with his fans, always upbeat, seemed positive. He was at odds with Phil when Phil began to delve deeper and deeper into addiction and things like that. But, by all accounts, even though he's a pretty heavy drinker and whatnot, he always seemed to stay on top of things like that. And he always had a positive outlook. And that was one of the reasons I was such a big fan of his even back then, watching like the old Pantera videos. But it got me thinking about what I was able to, what I took from Dime and what I kind of inserted in my own playing on a daily basis. And there was a couple big pieces. I started studying a lot of Pantera songs in college. In high school, I knew about them, but I just didn't have the technique back then to, start trying out to learn almost anything off of Cowboys. But in college, I was getting my technique under my belt there, and I started picking apart the songs. And as I learned these songs, I realized that I was reinforcing my rhythmic sense, my left hand, right hand coordination. And so that was a lot of what I took from Dime, both his hands. First off, the left hand palm muting. So as far as I remember, when Cowboys dropped in 1990, he was the only one writing a lot of riffs that featured, the only one featuring left-hand palm muting like that. And I think he was the first one to come out with it in a big way. And it's a great technique because it really, all the riffs that he wrote, they were tight. And when I started doing this, I realized that I could tighten up all my own riffs at the same time. The easiest way is if I'm just playing an open E, like typically I'll just play it with one finger like this. And then the mute, I just lightly all through the rest of my fingers over the string. So as between the three fingers, they're covering all six strings. So as soon as I clamp down there, it's almost like an additional noise gate somewhere in my chain there. Because when I clamp down there, everything shuts right off. Like I was trying to play the riff to Cowboys there. That's a pretty aggressive and tight timing right there for that one, and it's also a lot in domination. So that's a great one there. But it's a great technique because I realize I can apply it to whatever I'm doing. It doesn't necessarily have to be metal. Anytime I need a quick cutoff from whatever I'm playing, I always apply that left hand technique because it cleans everything up. Nothing else is running through at that point. So it's a great technique, and it's a good thing to just remember. It quiets down your playing, and the riffs using it are powerful because it's percussive. It's rhythmic. When he was playing these riffs combined with Vinnie Paul's excellent double bass drumming, that's when you really heard like the magic happen there. But it's a great technique, and we thank Dime for that. And it's I always apply it to everything I do. Anytime if I'm playing a big chord here and we need to shut off quickly, I'm always using my left hand as well as my right hand, thanks to Dime, and it cleans everything right up. But continuing on with hands, the other thing I really wanted to talk about was his right hand, his picking technique. Because even going back before Cowboys, if we look at like power metal, like the title track, that riff is insane. The intro riff. So that's even before Cowboys, and that was, I think, when he really started to mature as a player, right around when that album dropped. The earlier ones are cool, they feature some cool songs and whatnot, but Dime started to really come out, I think, around power metal. And if you listen to that album, Especially if you've never heard it before. If you listen to it, you'll hear. You can definitely tell it's Dime, and you can definitely tell it's him playing these riffs. It's really cool, and it's just something a little before their big time, so it's really neat if you never listened to it before. But then again, you know, like continuing onto Cowboys, like even the main riff from Cowboys, you know, that is a very tough riff, and it features just, you got to be 100% precise when you're doing it down here. As far as I understand, Michael, or I should say Dime, in the 80s, he actually got a hold of Michelangelo Badio's Star Licks video, which is like the precursor to, you know, Speed Kills. If you've never seen that, it's a great one to watch too. So it was said that he mastered all these licks. And if you go watch that somewhere on YouTube, if that's true, then you'll see that, you know, these licks that he's playing on this one from the 80s are even crazier and more outlandish than everything he did on Speed Kills, some of the licks he was doing. So if Dime mastered that, that really tells you that he had his, you know, his right-left hand technique coordination down. And riffs like that, you know, that, you know, just being able to play these things in time, I mean, they're not easy. And if you watch someone play Domination, like their hands are flying all over the place. Then he goes into one of the most famous, you know, licks, I think, on the Pantera album, you know, on that one. And of course, it's featuring that heavy left-hand palm muting as soon as he starts chugging in there. And on that track, that space that creates when he cuts off there, it just sounds so cool. So again, it's another great use of the palm muting. But if you watch my hands there, my hands are going all over the place. He's switching from doing syncopated eighth notes. Then he starts going in triplets. And he just goes back and forth a couple times, but it's aggressive and it's crazy. And I think, you know, working on that Star Lick stuff is the only way he was able to come up with playing crazy licks like this. And, you know, power metal's full of crazy. Half the stuff on power metal I still can't play, and even Cowboys from Hell, like something like Heresy, it's a very complex rhythmic picking pattern. It's hard to nail tight. Making mistakes, but even there, that pick, the main riff there. I can tell when I'm 100% on, and I can tell when I'm off. And when I'm on, it sounds pretty crisp and clean, and it's just tough to play because his hand coordination was so good, and you know, he was able to not just, you know, speed pick like he could do all that, and he did that all over the album on different parts. But he was able to come up with these intricate. These intricate, crazy, different, you know, riffing patterns. Like Heresy's one of the harder ones, and then something like Art of Shredding, he's got great licks all over that too. But you know, just his hand coordination. Like I said before, studying these songs, when I started to get them under my belt a little bit, I knew that my, you know, my own kind of subconscious picking metronome, you know, everything was getting a little bit tighter as I went along. And just the other week, I had this song. It was a version of the Little Drummer Boy, and and I just start going like this. And that just continues on for straight about 4.5 to 5 minutes. And after we played that song for the first time, some of the other people were commenting, "Oh, you were very tight on that." And I didn't think about it at the time, but I can thank Dime for that. You know, learning these riffs, getting kind of these intricate more riffing patterns, getting a little bit different speed patterns underneath my picking hand. That just kind of reinforced my subconscious foundation, and I'm able to kind of stay in time. My hands stay in time. I don't drift. Like, everyone's got their own little internal metronome. Mine's pretty tight thanks to starting riffs like this. So, you know, it's another great thing. So, you know, Dime was just innovative all over the place. You know, his riffs, his solos, and that kind of brings me to the last point. He was very dynamic. You know, if you listen to the album on Cowboys, like he's got Cemetery Gate, so that's probably one of the prettiest guitar solos. I rank that up there with like Tornado. I just think that solo is so greatly written. It starts out sweet and you know, melodic. I used to have that solo all the way under my belt, but I've lost it for now. But it's you know, he starts out with a nice, almost classical style lick like that, and then by the end of the solo, he's able to do that, but the whole solo connects so beautifully. That's a beautiful piece of writing. And one of my favorite kind of picking licks of his that I've always worked on throughout the years is the intro lick to the Domination solo. It's a tough one, but it's a great pattern, and it shows kind of the dynamic type of. I don't know if that's in a Lydian mode or whatnot, but he was able to come up with all these different patterns outside of the standard pentatonic thing, which he was great at. Just that lick, you know, from the Cemetery. So that's one of my favorite pentatonic licks of all time. That's it nice and slow, but when he plays it fast, it shreds. I'd have to work that back up, but it's a great pentatonic lick, so he's great at that. But then he stretches outside of that, and he comes up with all his other great solo ideas. So he's a very dynamic player. He kind of got more raw and gritty as the albums went on. He kind of got away from maybe writing some of these more melodic pieces. But if you listen to power metal, definitely Cowboys. You know, to some extent Far Beyond Driven, or not Far Beyond Driven, but the one before that, Vulgar Display of Power. That one, he's still got a little bit of that earlier melodic playing style in there in some way, but after that he started to get more and more away from that. But if you listen to those earlier ones, he's just playing with such different flavors, different speeds, but it all sounds natural and all sounds beautiful. It's another great thing I try and grab away from Dime. You know, not sticking to my same patterns, but trying to branch away and come up with different ideas. So he's an inspiration for me to try and do that. So that's just one more thing I thank him for. But you know, I hope you enjoyed this. You know, I always enjoy looking at Dime. I always enjoy coming back, you know, reinforcing some of these solos. Like I want to go through and relearn the Cemetery solo, perfect that up again. That's a great one. And then, you know, that'll just be another thing I have under my belt. And you know, everything you learn at Dimes, you're going to take something good away from it. So we thank him for that. But hope you enjoyed this. Have a good night.